CCS for almost 15 years. When I first started, I was an instructional assistant for the ESL department. I did that for about 8 years. Then I moved on to helping with first and third grade for a few months. And then I landed in my favorite position, pre-K, and I've been there for about 7 years.
I chose to work in Columbus City Schools because it is the school district that is responsible for my education from K through 12 and is responsible for the education of my children K through 12. And so I have an affinity with the district, and I wanted to come back and contribute because of the experience that I had within the district. I work in a special needs program. So one of the most rewarding experiences is just coming in, working with our children who don't have language of any kind and teaching them American Sign Language so that they can communicate with us, and seeing them verbalize when they don't have anything to begin with.
When I get to have my pre-K promotions at the end of the year, you know, the kids are in their caps and gowns and they get to move on to kindergarten, and it's like celebrating everything they've done all year. It's like, it's a great moment every year. It's like, I can look forward to having that memorable moment. I'm the first impression that our parents and caregivers and students have for CCS. I'm that first stepping stone for school. So I feel like I have a lot of impact. Like if I can make their first year with us great, then that sets them up as they continue on. So I'm a big believer in the impact of.
Probably one of my most rewarding was when I received the Channel 10 Classroom Hero. I also was a nominated Teacher of the Year in the Linden area. And just watching children grow and go off to college and come back to me, so that's really exciting. I think the work that I do and the time that I put into each individual children prepares them for the future, prepares them for whether they're going to college or not going to college, just so that they become great citizens.
You know, I came here when I was 18 as an immigrant, and you know, the district, I went here to the district. So as a student, they helped me out, you know, ESL student who don't speak English. So I just felt like the teachers were very helpful, and you know, now I just want to pay it forward. I just want to help other kids just like how my teachers helped me to be where I'm at today. You know, being the first person to graduate in my family was very hard for me to kind of grasp everything that went to it. But my teachers were there from day one to help every single minute. And one of my teachers even drove me from school to the administration office to make sure that all my papers are in and, you know, everything is set so that I can start school the next Monday. So I felt like that was so poignant, how the teachers cared about the students, their success and things like that. So I just felt like, you know, hey, this is what I want to be. This is what I want to do, you know, just help kids like myself who need help. Because if it wasn't them, I would not be sitting where I'm at right now.
The diversity. There are so many opportunities in Columbus that other small towns don't give you. We have a lot of resources here, but just the diversity of the families and the people that live here.
For the early childhood educator who's considering a career in Columbus City Schools, do it. We will come rally around you, and you start somewhere, but that is not where you end up. We will grow with you, and you will be surprised at the amount of professional growth and personal growth that you will have working with our children in this district.
Of course, capturing the lizards is important, but studying their physiology and comparing it to other colonies is something researchers are hoping to zone in on.
So we've got our lab here at Ohio Wesleyan University. We've got a great group of students working in the lab, catching the animals in the field and collecting data in the field, and then maintaining the animals in the lab, taking care of them, and then conducting some experiments and measures on them here in captivity.
So we feed them mealworms, and we give them water. We fill the water dish up with the water, and then we just spray the sides of the cages so they can drink the water off the sides, and also so it's like a humid type of environment, because reptiles, they need that humidity for their skin.
I would say the process actually starts as soon as we catch a lizard. So as soon as we catch a lizard, we initially take its body temperature, we collect a blood sample, and then give it a quick number.
What we're doing there is we're looking at the entire DNA sequence of individuals from Columbus and Cincinnati and also Italy, and we're comparing them to see if there's any evidence that the populations have experienced natural selection on certain traits, the population genetics at a broader level to understand if these populations are inbred, and how this colonization of this new habitat is affecting the genetic diversity within the population. Most of the time when organisms experience a genetic bottleneck, it's a really bad thing because they lose genetic diversity. They don't have any genetic diversity to respond to new environments. But in these lizards, apparently it didn't slow them down at all. And we're trying to understand why that might be or what that process was like.
As weather patterns changed, students began to lose their luck finding the lizards.
There's a level of habituation that I think could still be occurring with the tiles. There's been a dramatic change in the place they lived in a very small time frame. So although the bushes and the cover that they had previously, the cracks in the brick wall have been taken away. And now they have these new objects laying there that they could use, but is it safe? Is it something that they want to use just yet? Has it met their standards as a hiding place? And that's something that might take a little bit of time for them to use. And so I think we're still in that sort of realizing what the lizards are going to do and how they're going to behave process.
They don't really come out in the cold. They can't survive in the cold. So they mostly stay underground. That's why we have the tiles layered in a kind of way so that they have a way to go into them but still get heat and radiated throughout their bodies.
And we learned that the bigger tiles will hold heat better, they capture heat better, and we've been finding them only underneath the bigger black tiles that I put out there.
But as temperatures rose, lizards reappeared, this time appearing across the street.
At first I was like, we ain't catch no lizards, because most of the time, until the last time we went, we didn't catch none, but all the other classes was, so I was like, there's no luck, no chance of us catching lizards. But then we caught some. I was like, okay, we'll keep the hope alive, so I'm sure it's going to be more here in the summer.
We did catch 2 lizards, a male and a female. I caught one and a student caught one. So that was exciting for us because we've been going out a couple days a week. There is a big worry that because the bushes were removed so early and they're so dependent on a very specific habitat, that once those bushes were gone, they have moved into the neighbors. In fact, we've seen them in the neighbors' block.
In the removal process of all those bushes, the hope, at least, is that only a few were displaced. And so they moved across and were in the bushes. I believe it's a multi-purpose building. That's a #1 priority on our list, is to keep these lizards contained to the school parking lot and remove them from there to the Ohio Wesleyan campus.
Unfortunately, today it was a little discouraging that we found some in the vegetation by the apartment building, because that means they're not just limited to this parking lot, they're on the next block over. That vegetation is pretty dense. I imagine the folks in that office or apartment building aren't going to be too thrilled with the proposition of removing that vegetation. So that could present a real challenge to trying to remove these guys. But we'll just keep at it and get as many as we can. I have one animal back in the lab that actually laid eggs last week. So a little bit early compared to the animals out in the wild, because they've been in the lab where it's been warmer and more consistent. Hasn't exactly been the nicest spring here in Ohio, which actually gives us a little more time. That'll push back the egg laying date and everything like that. So. But overall, we've had great success. A student, Ethan, has been catching them by hand very impressively. Greg caught a couple by hand. I was able to get a couple with the lasso. We're happy that we've gotten as many as we have, and we'll bring these guys back to the lab, and we'll try to get as much information about the animals as we can. Hassan, you can give that to Alyssa, please. Thank you for being the blood holder. Sir. Now when someone asks you what you did in school today, you're like, oh, I held lizard blood. You can never be entirely sure that you've eliminated all the animals. There's no way to prove that something isn't in a place. But if we keep doing that, then we can be pretty assured that we've removed the animals that are here, or if there are a few left, then hopefully that number is small enough where they can't continue reproducing and build the population back up. So it just takes a lot of time and effort to come out and keep catching them, and then repeated surveys even after we think we've got them all to make sure that there's no more popping up.
Even if we don't catch every single animal across the street, there really doesn't appear to be many places for them to overwinter there, so that's another thing. Like a couple of loose animals over there may not mean an established population. We'll see.
With the wall lizards, I don't know if we can ever say mission completely accomplished, that we've eradicated them for sure, but at least right now it looks like I surprised even my own expectations in how well it went. And I think a couple factors led to that. I think getting out here early in the year, removing the vegetation really early in the year, and then really removing the animals early in the year before they reproduce, and also having a lot of eyes on the ground, so it's been fantastic to work with the high school students, and they've been
Hello to our entire Columbus City School community. My name is Jefferson Fitzel Maxwell, and I am a student at Columbus North International. And before we begin tonight's Board of Education business meeting, I invite you to check out this highlight and update from across the district.
Greetings and welcome to this week's highlights from across the district. Were you lucky enough to catch the solar eclipse on April 8th? Our students embarked on an extraordinary journey into space. Students had an opportunity to witness the solar eclipse safely with their special CCS Eclipse glasses. Our fifth graders transformed into astronomers equipped with learning boxes from COSI. They delved deep into the mysteries of the universe and engaged in activities aligned to their science curriculum. Watching the moon pass in front of the sun, casting a shadow over most of Ohio, was an unforgettable experience for our students, teachers, and staff. It reminds us of all the vastness and wonder of the cosmos. 11 Columbus City schools have been honored by the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce for their exceptional progress and student growth on the latest Ohio State Report Card. These schools are among 310 statewide, including 38 in Franklin County, to receive the prestigious Momentum Award. This award recognizes districts and school buildings that have exceeded expectations by demonstrating outstanding achievement, improvement, and student growth throughout the year. Districts and buildings earn the Momentum Award by improving their performance index by 3 or more points from the previous year's report card and by achieving a value-added progress rating of 4 or more stars. Congratulations to these 11 schools. I am so very proud of you. 30 CCS educators will be able to enhance their teaching skills this summer at the highly acclaimed Ron Clark Academy. Sponsored by Huntington National Bank, the 2-day Professional Development Summit in Atlanta, Georgia is an interactive, immersive learning experience where educators will have the opportunity to observe classes and participate in dynamic workshops that will teach them how to ignite a passion for learning, provide meaningful support, encourage academic excellence, foster authentic relationships, and ensure a climate and culture where all students thrive. For a complete list of the schools and the educators that will be participating in the Ron Clark Academy Summit, visit our district website at www.ccsoh.us. All students and staff recognize CCS Traffic Safety and Awareness Week from March 25th through the 28th. For a second year, our district joined forces with Vision Zero Columbus to instill traffic and pedestrian safety knowledge and awareness in our community, whether driving, walking, or riding a bicycle. Students learned about all types of traffic safety throughout the week with hot cards, posters, school announcements, and visits by community partners. Thank you for helping make CCS and our community safer. The end of March wrapped up Why I Love My HBCU Month. To celebrate historically Black colleges and universities, students from various high schools across the district received an exciting opportunity to learn more about HBCUs at the 2024 CBUS HBCU College Fair, showcasing the culture and the essence of what HBCUs have to offer. Former CCS students who are currently attending HBCUs shared stories with high school students about their college life experience and why HBCUs are essential to the community. I want to congratulate the students at Medina Middle School for completing the TAPS program. I commend you on your dedication and perseverance throughout this 11-week program. Your commitment to personal growth, academic excellence, and community service has set you apart and inspired us all. Today, we celebrate your accomplishments. All aboard! Pathway Express arrives at its final 2023-2024 school year destination. Students and their families will get the chance to enjoy free admission to Grange Insurance Audubon Center on Saturday, April 13th. Families will engage in fun learning experiences related to urban agriculture and wildlife exploration and meet and greet with American novelist and television producer R.L. Stine. Stine is known for his children's literature and horror fiction novels, including Goosebumps. You don't want to miss out on this adventure. These have been your highlights from around the district for April 9th. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening and welcome to the April 9th, 2024 Columbus Board of Education and Business Meeting. Please call the roll.
Ms. Adair? Present. Mr. Cole?
Here.
Ms. Ingles?
Present.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
Present.
Ms. Reyes? Here. Mr. Simmons? President Vera?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, colleagues, this evening, we have 2 for public comment, in addition to 4 resolutions. We will hear an update report from our superintendent. We do not expect a report from our internal interim auditor. We do have a report from our interim treasurer. We also have a notice of public hearing on reemployment of a retired employee, in addition to a public hearing on reemployment of a retired employee. We also have agenda items 10.1 to 26.3, and then we also have an executive session. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any objections? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adair? Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
President Vera?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right. At this time, we will move into our public comment. As we prepare for that, I just want to continue to remind our community and our partners that we do host office hours before every single board meeting between 5:15 and 5:45. So if you have interest in having dialogue with a board member, typically there's 1 up to 3 board members at a time at office hours. So at this time, we do have Amber Ross. I believe she is joining virtually, and the topic is protection. Board action, approve an adjustment transfer for his safety, and also provide homework necessary to obtain enough credits to be promoted. Good evening, Ms. Ross.
Good evening to all board members and staff. I was wanting to talk about protection. Unfortunately, my son experienced an incident on one of the Columbus City school buses, and after having experienced that situation, it was to my understanding that the kids that were involved jumped off the back of the bus. Okay, my thing is to have the board members talk with transportation and have all staff realize the importance of safety and protection. That back door, of course, we all know is not to be open unless an emergency. On that particular day, you know, a car could have come behind and hit one of those kids. Had, you know, the way they jumped off the back of the bus. I have not seen the footage of what happened on the bus, but it's just in my imagination as to how that bus stop is, and I know where my son catches the bus. As far as the adjustment, transfer, a lot of that has been solved, and I really appreciate Columbus City Schools for the way that they have handled things for my son. Homework, things, I mean, I really appreciate it. It's just more so, I just want the board to really talk to transportation about their way of protection for these kids.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. I believe someone from our team will follow up with you in regards to this. Thank you. Next, we will hear from President Nana Watson. Topic, why do you continue to utilize the cooperative purchasing agreement? Board action, stop using the cooperative purchasing agreement. Good evening, President Watson.
Good evening, President Vera, board members, Superintendent Chapman. Nana Watson, representing the NAACP. As always, I appreciate to come before you and have a conversation by myself because you never answer. So I have raised this concern repeatedly, and you just won't respond to it. In recent meetings, there have been ongoing utilization of the cooperative purchasing agreement under the Capital Improvement Department. The arrangements allows outgoing companies to operate with our city and potentially divert taxpayer dollars away from local initiatives and businesses. Despite repeated inquiries, we have not received a satisfactory response to why these practices continue. We're troubled by the implications of this decision. Allowing external entities to benefit from taxpayer-funded contracts raises significant questions about accountability, transparency, and overall commitment to supporting local businesses and communities. We understand the importance of efficient procurement processes and potential benefits of cooperative purchasing agreements. However, it is essential to prioritize the interests of the community and ensure that taxpayer dollars are reinvested locally. Therefore, we respectfully request clarification on the rationale behind the continued use of the cooperative purchasing agreement. What measures are being taken to mitigate any negative impacts on local businesses and communities? And most importantly, do you intend to address these concerns and provide a satisfactory answer to the NAACP? We're looking forward to receiving a comprehensive report on cooperative purchasing agreements. I'm really getting tired of coming down here asking you the same questions over and over and no one responds. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, President Watson. At this time, we will move into board matters. Item 4.1, which is a resolution to recognize and congratulate the 2023-2024 Columbus Afrocentric Early College High School Lady Nubians Girls Basketball Team for winning the Ohio Division State Girls Basketball Championship. So Nubians, if you could please come to the podium and Vice President Pierce has the motion.
Whereas the members of the Columbus Board of Education are proud to celebrate achievement because of the spirit of encouragement, leadership, and empowerment that it gives to students as citizens in our global world. And whereas the Columbus Afrocentric Early College High School was named after the ancient African civilization that flourished along the upper parts of the Nile and what is now southern Egypt and northern Sudan, first proposed in 1993 as an academic focus that includes a respect for African American cultural traditions and values. The school has 902 students committed to scholastic excellence a 91.9% graduation rate, and more than $3 million in scholarships were awarded to the class of 2023. And whereas third-year coach Janisa Anderson ended the team's 28-2 season with a 58-47 victory over the...
Okay, we got it. A victory over the Ottawa Glandorf High School at the University of Dayton Arena. This is the 9th state championship for the Lady Nubians, a state record for the most titles in 48 history of Ohio High School Athletic Association girls basketball tournament. Whereas the Road of Championship include a 16th City League championship with a win over Centennial High School, the Lady Nubians state championship win came in 2007, 2009, 2012, 2014, 2016, 2018, 2019, 2023, and 2024. Whereas the 2023-2024 basketball Lady Nubian team included Rayana Howell, Ashton Winfrey, Nevaeh White, Faith Martin, Janaya Bowers, Samara Thompson, Johanna Overby, Shawnee Little, Nija Harris, Aries Grant, Natalia Nelson, Cameron Grant, and Javiana Brown, and and support from Athletic Director Lena Coates. And whereas Coach Janika Anderson, a 2006 Afrocentric graduate, Assistant Taisha Moss, a 2008 Nubian graduate, and team manager Elena Ferguson, a 10th grader, helped guide the Lady Nubians to a postseason win over Grove City, Horizon Academy, Lakewood, West Jefferson, Centerburg, Cincinnati, Country Day, Alter, Ottawa, Glandorf. Moreover, the team continued its winning tradition in the classroom, earning a team GPA average of 3.4. So be it resolved that the Columbus Board of Education does hereby congratulate the 2023-2024 Columbus Afrocentric Early College High School Lady Nubians girls basketball team on winning the Ohio Division State Girls Basketball Championships.
Second. Second.
Please call the roll.
Vice President Dr. Pierce. Ms. Reyes.
Yes.
Mr. Simmons. President Vera.
Yes.
Ms. Adair.
Yes.
Mr. Cole.
Absolutely, yes.
Ms. Ingalls.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Congratulations, ladies.
As you stated, on and off the court, we have 5 individuals five seniors that'll be going off to college on full ride scholarships, athletic and academic. I just want to shed light on the fact that since 2005, we've sent at least 2 to 5 women to college, and I don't think that that's noted enough. We tend to worry about or shed light to the basketball games and the championships, and those are amazing. But it's the fact that our entire program has over $1.5 million in scholarship academic money, and that is just something that is amazing. It's a testament to Coach Will McKinney, who started this thing. And as an Afrocentric alumni, I just pledge to keep going and keep the legacy going. What we ask from you all is just to continue to give us the support. As you stated earlier, we do hold the most state championships in Ohio high school history. And for us to not have been a high school varsity program for more than 20 years, that is amazing, an inner city program. So if we can just get the support, because we don't plan on stopping anytime soon. We're going to definitely continue to do this. We're going to continue to be great on and off the court. And I just want to shed a little light also on, last year, we appreciate the support, but last year I was pretty disappointed. We lost the coach right before our regional championship, and there was no grieving counselors or anybody extended to these young women. And I just want that to be shed a light on that. There's coaches that put in their time, they volunteer. I have coaches who I'm not able to pay, and they show up every day. David Rose was one of those people. And it needs to be just a little bit more support for coaches and players. And they're strong. Again, it's a testament to who they are, who our program is. We were able to get through it to win last year, but that should be something that we focus on because coaches play a huge role in these kids' lives. And when you celebrate a win, a district championship on Friday or Saturday with a coach, and on Sunday you walk into practice and you realize that he'll never come back through them doors, that's huge. And I think, it just has to be more support when those things happen because it's inevitable. You know what I mean? Things are going to happen. But again, we thank you. We appreciate the support. Like I said, if we can just continue to get that, we are a powerhouse on and off the court. We're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to be that. And your support is appreciated. And it is needed. We're up against a lot of scrutiny, a lot of they shouldn't be here. And that fuels us. But if your support is behind us even more, that allows us to keep going even harder. And again, I just want to thank our parents. We have some amazing parents. They're so supportive. If I tell them practice is in Texas right now in an hour, they're going to text me a little harder, but they're going to be there. So I just want to give a congratulations to our parents. They're all not here, but if y'all can stand up. Yep. They're representing all the parents that couldn't be here. But it's such a sacrifice. It's such a sacrifice for them too. So I just want to shed light on that. And again, thank you. Congratulations to my girls. It's not easy to be a Lady Nubian. It's not easy to be a student athlete. When kids go on Christmas break, I'm sending them a practice schedule. And I just encourage them to keep pushing, keep going. And I encourage all the young ladies out there in the basketball community. It's amazing to be a part of something so great. And we want to continue to be the forefront of Columbus City League. Again, thank you. A-hi.
Well, they're going to take a picture anyways.
Nope, we haven't. Did we get in then? All right, well,
All right, we're all going.
How are you, board member?
I know you. I didn't know. I was like, let me just come here. Yes.
It's unusual to be all of them basketball
No, I'm so lazy. Our wonderful Lady Nubians. All right, so we are going to move on to item 4.2, which is a resolution to recognize National Autism Acceptance Month. I actually have this motion here, or this resolution, and so if we can please have all of our individuals that are here today to celebrate. We have one of our students, let's see, We also have a short video, but if Dr. Nelson, Miss Mia Crawley, a student from South High School, Max Sellers, Casey Sellers, who's a current student, all of our folks that are here, please feel free to come to the front. I know we have a small video. I'm going to go ahead. We'll play the video now if the team is ready.
Diagnosed with autism and was diagnosed at the age of 3. Autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, is a neurodevelopmental disorder that occurs early in life. It affects brain function and has developmental consequences. Autism impacts the areas of communication, socialization, and behavior, but to varying degrees. In 2020, the Centers for Disease Control, or the CDC, estimated that 1 in 54 individuals are diagnosed yearly with autism. Individuals with autism aren't all like the movie Rain Man, and they also aren't all severely impacted without the ability to talk. Individuals with autism, like me, often fall in between those two areas. I have difficulty with communication, processing, and information, and I often need breaks to regulate my emotions when overwhelmed. I have good days and bad days like everyone else. Please don't think of someone with autism as high functioning or low functioning. This only limits what people believe we can accomplish. Remember, autism is a spectrum and affects every individual differently and uniquely. To quote Dr. Stephen Shore, who was diagnosed with autism in the 1950s, if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism.
So I have the resolution, and I will say, as a proud mother of a son that has autism and a nephew that has autism, this is definitely something that I firsthand understand. So whereas the Columbus City School Board of Education recognizes the importance of raising awareness to support issues and causes that impact student outcomes, as this is a part of district's commitment to making sure that each student is highly educated and prepared for service as citizens in a global community. And whereas autism is a developmental and neurological condition that lies on a spectrum, it is characterized by difficulties to communicate and interact socially, some learning challenges, and repetitive behaviors. And whereas by recognizing Autism Acceptance Month, the board hopes to raise awareness regarding people on the spectrum to increase the public's understanding regarding the impact that the condition has upon individual families, to connect people with organizations that support autism, and to identify ways that everyday people can support the autistic community. And whereas the Center for Disease Control has determined that approximately 1 in 68 children in the United States have autism. Moreover, with so many affected people, it is important to build support systems that provide resources to assist and serve people with this condition. And whereas April is National Autism Acceptance Month, it is a time to increase public awareness regarding the need to support individuals with autism, as well as the family members, educators, and professionals who teach and care for individuals with this condition. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Columbus Board of Education that the board does hereby recognize April as Autism Acceptance Month and encourages residents to learn more about this condition and its impact upon the students served by Columbus City Schools. That is a motion. Is there a second? Please call the roll.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
President Vera?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Board Member, Board President Adair, or Board President Vera, Board Vice President Pierce, our esteemed Board of Education, Dr. Chapman, Interim Treasurer Vanover. We so appreciate the opportunity for this recognition. We know every day we are blessed here in Columbus City to serve our families, to serve our students, and to not only about our students, but also the amazing staff, our teachers, our instructional assistants, some of whom are here today, that support our students and help them to grow. So we thank you for this. We do want to mention that that Max, who put together that amazing video, is here with us today. Thank you, Max. And I would like to ask Mia, who was one of our amazing students, to say a few words to the Board of Education to thank you for all that you do to support the work that we do, to help her to be the person that she is. Mia, would you like to come?
I just want to say thank you for supporting in Autism Awareness Month, and I also want to say thank you for supporting in Project Search training program.
Thank you, Mia.
As a parent, intervention specialist, and now transition coordinator, this means a lot. Both my boys have been, raised in Columbus City schools from the time they were with Board Member Cole's children at the Fort Hays Child Care Program. Special needs preschool. There's a saying that it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a child with autism to raise the consciousness of the village. So thank you for doing this. It means a lot. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we will now move into item 4.3. This evening, we will observe, let's move on. I'm in the wrong page. Let's see. This evening, we are going to be honoring an amazing nurse here in our district. This evening, we would like to welcome Miss Virginia Schaefer to the podium. Ms. Schaefer will be joined by Dr. Kate King, the President of National Association of School Nurses, Ms. Kim Carpenter, Dr. Michelle Klein, and a host of school nurses. So please join us at the podium, and Board Member Adair has the resolution.
Thank you, President Vera. I'm proud to present the resolution to congratulate Virginia Schaefer on being selected as the Ohio Association of School Nurses 2024 School Nurse of the Year. Whereas the Columbus Board of Education proudly honors and celebrates Columbus City School employees that exemplify the district's vision of providing a world-class model of public education that prepares students to reach their fullest potential. Virginia Schaefer, a licensed school nurse and diabetics resource nurse with the Columbus City Schools District, has been selected as the 2024 School Nurse of the Year by the Ohio Association of School Nurses, a professional association for nurses affiliated with the National Association of School Nurses. Virginia's responsibilities include coordinating evidence-based services for more than 180 students affected with diabetes, providing educational resources and services to families and staff, and being a safety net for some of the district's most fragile children. In fact, her professional nursing services have not only advanced the wellness and academic success of students, her interventions have positively impacted lifelong achievement by helping students to finish their education. The Columbus Board of Education has a unique appreciation for the impact that school nurses have on each child and believes that school nurses, like Virginia, should be saluted for the value-added impact that they have towards improving student outcomes. Now, therefore, it be resolved by the Columbus Board of Education that this board does hereby congratulate Virginia Schaefer on being selected as the Ohio Association of School Nurses 2024 School Nurse of the Year. That is a motion.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes. We're going to do the motion real quick.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
President Vera?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Dr. Klein.
Dr. Pierce, members of the board, Treasurer Vanovener, Internal Auditor O'Connor, Dr. Roush, and Superintendent Chapman. It is my extreme privilege to congratulate Mrs. Jenny Schaefer. Jenny has been selected as the Ohio School Nurse of the Year and is currently our diabetic coordinator. Jenny has also recently been elected to the National Association of School Nurses Board of Directors representing Ohio. As you can see, I have with me a privileged number of school nurses and former school nurses that are retired here to support Jenny, along with her husband, Todd. Please give them a round of applause. Our first guest that will speak is Dr. Kate King, our school nurse at World Language Middle School and the National Association of School Nurses president. Dr. King.
I'm a little taller than Dr. Klein. Thank you so much. And thank you for recognizing school nursing in our district. School nursing in our district has been a model and satellite program and recognized nationally as a stellar model of healthcare in schools for many, many years. And it is upon this foundation that we build the healthcare for children, because as school nurses, our goal is that all children are healthy, safe, and ready to learn. It is an honor to have one of our own school nurses recognized as the Ohio Association of School Nurses School Nurse of the Year, and more incredible honor to work alongside with me on a national level to impact the health and schooling of children nationally on the National Association of School Nurses Board of Directors. Thank you so much, and congratulations, Ginny.
Thank you, Dr. King. Next up, we have Kim Carpenter. Kim is a 2015-16 Ohio School Nurse of the Year who nominated Jenny to be our Ohio School Nurse of the Year for this year. She is currently a school nurse at Gables Elementary. Kim Carpenter.
Good evening. Jenny Schaefer is an accomplished school nurse and has provided strong support to the students, staff, and families of Columbus City Schools for the last 13 years. She's a true representative of our highest professional standards as a licensed school nurse. We have shared schools and assignments through the years. One school we both love is Eakin Elementary. I well recall two brothers there with a serious, life-threatening condition, the younger of the boys much more fragile. Jenny made comprehensive efforts to prepare for his attendance, for outreach and support for his family during his times of absence, and had frequent contact with his healthcare team. Another school we both love is Gables Elementary. I shared the news of Jenny's award with a mutual friend there. She said, "I just got the shivers." She recalled the vital support and skilled advice that Jenny had given her as a new first-time mother. She credits Jenny with helping her to be successful at nursing and feeding her infant. Jenny's expertise as a lactation consultant is invaluable to our students and staff. I'm honored to be her friend and colleague and proud to call her the Ohio School Nurse of the Year.
Next up, we have Jenna Scheidegger, who is our school nurse at South Mifflin STEM Academy. Jenna?
Good evening. I started my school nursing career in 2020, and Jenny was my mentor, and it was in the middle of the pandemic. As my mentor, she taught me how to transition my thought processes from the acute care setting to the public health care setting using a whole new educational language. She taught me how to accomplish immunization requirements, how to do hearing and vision screenings on hundreds of students. She taught me how to navigate the whole inside world of the health tab of Infinite Campus. She taught me how to research right and what to include in a health appraisal for a student going up for evaluation. And she taught me how to partner with local health providers to help establish medical and dental care that's needed. Jenny is a school nurse role model because she continues to lead by example, by continuing to learn, to grow, to be involved, as well as challenging and encouraging those around her to do the same, presenting them with opportunities for growth. It's an honor to be here to speak on behalf of Jenny, and she is a true asset to Columbus City Schools. Congratulations, Jenny, on this outstanding accomplishment.
Next up is Kathy Budd, one of our mentor nurses. Kathy?
Good evening. I have had the honor of working closely with Jenny Schaefer for the last 13 years. Jenny is one of a kind. She has a strong dedication to the students, staff, families, and other fellow school nurses. She is always willing to lend a helping hand and goes above and beyond. For example, when I was at West High School, she offered to come over. I ran a pregnancy parenting group. And she offered to come over and work with my mothers-to-be on breastfeeding. I could not think of a better person to receive the Ohio Association of School Nurses School Nurse of the Year Award. Jenny has been a wonderful person to work with, but also a wonderful friend. Congratulations, Jenny.
And last but not least, Dr. Carol Sullivan will present our flowers to Jenny Schaefer, our Ohio School Nurse of the Year. Congratulations to Jenny and to all of our school nurses who, believe it or not, are the most fantastic in the state of Ohio. Give them a hand.
I had prepared a speech, but I'm glad that I don't have to do that. So I just want to say it's an honor to serve with Columbus City Schools, and I've been a nurse for 30 years and left the hospital about 13, 14 years ago, and this is the most wonderful job I could ever have, and I'm just so grateful and thankful for your support of our health services directors, supervisors, Dr. Klein, and all the nurses that I work with. It's a joy to come to work every day. So thank you again.
All right, colleagues, we are going to move on to item 4.4, a resolution to recognize and celebrate paraprofessionals of the Columbus City School District. This evening, we would like to welcome Ms. Lois Carson to the podium. President Carson. President Carson will be joined by a group of our wonderful paraprofessionals who serve the students and schools of Columbus City School District. Good evening and welcome, and Board Member Cole has that resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. It is always my honor to offer resolution on behalf of what I think are an august group of employees and partners here in Columbus City Schools. With that, I'm asking the board to acknowledge and celebrate paraprofessionals in the Columbus City School District. Whereas the members of the Columbus Board of Education are proud to honor, celebrate, and recognize the unique contributions of paraprofessionals within the Columbus City School District. And whereas paraprofessionals and school-related personnel include instructional and non-instructional aides, bus drivers, cafeteria, custodial, maintenance, and ground staff, and others who are an invaluable part of the school experience. Their services include, but not are limited to, one-on-one small group tutoring, classroom management, let me say that again, one-on-one tutoring, classroom management, translation services, instructional support, supervised instruction, serving nutritious meals, and maintaining a clean, safe, attractive learning environment, as well as transporting students to and from school. And whereas paraprofessionals are an essential part of the education process, their expertise impacts student outcomes and helps students to achieve their goals. Their professionalized attention and relationship building skills are an immeasurable part of the school learning experience. And whereas paraprofessionals often provide instructional, behavioral, and other support in and out of the classroom, they often work one-on-one with students who receive special education and other related services. And whereas paraprofessionals and school-related personnel, through their direct and indirect involvement with students, play a crucial role in facilitating communication between students, teachers, and parents. They allow teachers to enhance their effectiveness. Moreover, their tireless, dedicated work is often unheralded. Well, not today. They embody student empowerment and developmental success. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Columbus School Board of Education that this board does hereby recognize and celebrate paraprofessionals within the Columbus City School District. Moreover, this board expresses its special appreciation and thanks to each of the paraprofessionals that have and continue to provide services to our community, most valuable resource, our children. Thank you. Madam President?
That is a motion. Is there a
Second. Thank you. We got late notice yesterday that we were going to receive this honor, and we were very excited about it. It's the first time Columbus has ever recognized paras. We have special need paraprofessionals. We have bus aid paraprofessionals. We have regular paraprofessionals. Today with me, I have special need paras with me, and then the president from the regular aides. This is what they do. They got a text and an email about 2 o'clock, and it said, President Carson needs you at the board meeting tonight. Paras are going to be recognized. Or some of them got an email, President Carson needs your support tonight because we just need to support her. And they showed up. Notice, at 3 o'clock, they showed up. We have over 1,000 in the district. Only a couple hundred got the email. They showed up. This is what they do every day in the classroom. When their teaching partner needs them, they show up. When the library needs them, they show up. When they're working on the bus with their kids, they show up. When it's playground duty, they show up. So today, my friends, I thank you for showing up for Sister Carson, but really you showed up for you to show Columbus City School Board that without you behind every
teaching personnel in this district, it wouldn't work. Because we are the backbones of our teaching partners. We learn from them, they learn from us. And if the pandemic didn't teach us anything, it taught us as paras that we're a team and we need one another. So to my CEA teaching partners, thank you for the support and encouragement that you give to our paras. A lot of our paras are now going through the program to get their teaching license, and that's with the support of the district. And I got an attitude because I don't want y'all taking my people. But if they can educate themselves and continue to give back to Columbus City Schools, we as an organization will support and encourage them. But again, thank you, my friends, for all you do, because without you, there'd be no me, and without all of us, there'd be none of them. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so there was a motion, is there a second?
Second. I seconded.
Okay, Dr. Pierce, please call the roll.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
President Vera?
Yes.
Ms. Adair? Yes. Mr. Cole?
Absolutely, yes.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you,
Congratulations.
friends. I forgot about that part, but that's okay.
All right, that concludes our board matters. So we are going to move over to item 5.1. Good evening, Superintendent Chapman. How are you?
President, before we do that, may I just make a quick?
They're gone.
Yes, just what?
I thank you very quickly. This week happens to be Assistant Principal Week. This week is Assistant Principal Week. So for all of our principals throughout Columbus City Schools, particularly our assistant principals, and for all of our principals, assistant principals throughout Franklin County, I submit my congratulations, my heart, and my thanks for all the work that you do in our school buildings for our children daily. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
I think we all second that. Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent.
Good evening, President Vera, Vice President Dr. Pierce, members of the board, members of the community. It is a pleasure to be here with you this evening to provide an update on our Community Facilities Task Force. As you know, our task force, Community Facilities Task Force, was established as per Board Policy 7105. This task force, comprising internal and external participants, was initiated following the board's approval in our February 6, 2024 meeting. Our goal has been to evaluate and recommend potential school closures or consolidations based on comprehensive community and data-driven insights. Since its inception, the task force has diligently met twice monthly at various locations across the district to ensure broad-based community engagement and input. Tonight, I'll be presenting a summary of our progress to date. Looking at the outline for the work of the task force, this timeline certainly highlights when the meetings began and the process for implementation. The task force will continue to meet through June with the goal of meeting twice per month. And our goal, again, is to have a final recommendation to address our facilities to the Board of Education by the middle of June this year. We anticipate the recommendations will begin to take effect no sooner than the 25-26 school year. Since February 6th, we've held 4 meetings of the Community Facilities Task Force. The first meeting focused on task force members being introduced to each other and being introduced to the work. At the same time, we created a web page accessible to the public to house all information, including the final recommendations from the 2018 Facility Task Force. The web page continues to be updated following each meeting of the Community Facilities Task Force. At the second meeting at Mifflin High School, we handed off the Community Facilities Task Force leadership work to our co-chairs, Mr. Al Edmondson and Mr. Jimmy Negron. To ensure this work is community-led, the co-chairs worked with the group to establish meeting norms. We then heard a presentation from Mike Wilkos, Senior Vice President of Community Impact at United Way, focused on growth and development in the city of Columbus. This presentation was informative and impactful and is available on our Communities Facilities Task Force webpage. Additionally, we had a CCS team member who supported the 2018 Facilities Task Force present an overview of the school screening process utilized in 2018 to help frame the work ahead. We also launched a survey to begin the process of engaging the larger community with the work of the task force. To familiarize the community with the factors that board policy requires the community to consider in the process of making recommendations, and also to ask community members to indicate how important each factor is to them. The survey was tailored to 3 groups: K-8 students, high school students, and adults. In each of those groups, the survey was available in English, Arabic, French, Nepali, Somali, and Spanish. We had a clear goal to increase survey engagement in comparison to the 2018 survey, for which there were only 66 respondents. At the third meeting at the Hilltop Library, we reviewed the survey results with the Community Facilities Task Force, of which there were 4,000 total respondents to the survey, including over 1,000 students from K-8, 200 high school students, and over 2,000 adults. The most important considerations for students included safety and transportation, accessibility, building age and condition, even burden, and diversity. The most important considerations for adults included safety and transportation, building capacity, building age and condition, accessibility, and educational programs. We can certainly see overlap between what is most important for both students and adults tied to safety and transportation and building age and condition. I want to deeply thank our students and our adult community who took the time to fill out the survey. I know the task force appreciates your voice as they move forward with this very important work. After discussing the survey results, the task force reviewed interactive dashboards that our teams put together with filters for student enrollment, building utilization, building condition, and student transfer in and out rates. These interactive dashboards are also available to the public on our Community Facilities Task Force webpage. Lastly, we discussed the engagement plan for this very important work as we continue to ensure the voice of the community is driving us forward. At the fourth meeting at the Northern Lights Library, we rolled up our sleeves and began to focus on our first round of criteria review by grounding the work in the community priorities from the survey, reviewing factors for consideration for every school building, including school improvement status, whether or not they have been a part of a previous facility master plan project or renovated, percent of students transferring into the building, percent of students transferring out of the building, and school building overall utilization. Schools were identified by the number of factors they met to support rich conversation during an activity in which the Community Facilities Task Force members discuss each school's data, aided by maps of Columbus. The next meeting of the Community Facilities Task Force will be held on April 16th, right here at 3700 South High Street. At this meeting, the task force will focus on a second round of criteria review and continue to work toward creating a recommendation for the Board of Education. It's important to note that as of right now, no schools have been chosen to be recommended for closure or consolidation. And I'll repeat that one more time because it's worth noting. It is important to note that as of right now, no schools have been chosen to be recommended for closure or consolidation. The task force is still in the process of reviewing criteria, familiarizing themselves with the data, and asking great questions and hearing answers from support staff. Next, we are targeting the May 7th board meeting to present initial recommendations made by the Community Facilities Task Force. During the month of May, we are planning town halls, another survey, and gallery walks to gather community input on these initial recommendations. Pursuant to our original timeline, we are targeting the month of June for a final recommendation to the Board of Education to determine our path forward. Again, I want to express a huge amount of gratitude to our task force members who are giving their time, expertise, and voice to this critical process. And as a reminder, all information on the Community Facilities Task Force can be found on the CCS website. And here's a QR code to the specific web page. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to provide these updates. And I look forward to answering questions you may have and coming back to the board next month with the next update and some initial recommendations from the task force. Thank you.
Any questions? Board Member Ingalls.
Dr. Chapman, when you present the information to us in the June timeline, will you have in that process, are you planning to have a plan or recommendations for what we should do with existing property if, say, we're going to shut down a facility, whatever that facility may be? Any recommendations for use of that facility moving beyond the initial closure?
Thank you, Board Member Ingalls, for that question. At this time, that's not what the task force was charged with. Okay. The task force was charged with identifying if we should consolidate or close any of our school buildings. And so their primary focus is making recommendations and bringing recommendations back to the board for school consolidation or closure. So at this time, the task force was not charged with that assignment, and so we wouldn't be bringing forth any recommendations related to how we would use our property differently or how we would dispose of our property or transition property or partner with anyone. That has not been a topic of conversation for the work of this task force.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Chapman, I just have one quick question. In regards to the town halls, will there be a schedule put on the task force website as to when those town halls will be, the locations?
Yes. So, President Vera, when we think about the engagement, we want to be very thoughtful and intentional. So we did not want to publish a schedule prior to knowing what those initial recommendations are. Will be, some of the engagement opportunities will be very specific to the communities that are impacted the most. And so for those communities, we want to be more proximate to the community and take the conversations to them so they will have access and opportunity to be a part of the conversation. And so once we have those initial recommendations, then we will be crafting a very detailed plan of how we will be engaging with our community members. There'll be, district-wide events, but there'll also be more localized specific events that will provide our community members with access to share their feedback. So more information will be forthcoming, but we'll make sure that we share that information at the board meeting, on the website, and publish that information on our social media. We'll also be pushing it out through all of our channels, email, text message, robocalls, and so forth.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Dr. Chapman.
Thank you.
All right, colleagues, so we will move on. Good evening, Internal Auditor, Interim Internal Auditor O'Connor. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. I know we don't have a formal report, but do you have any updates or anything you'd
The
like
only
to
thing I
share?
have is we had a great Audit and Accountability Committee meeting on March 28th, and a detailed report will be coming to everybody this week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we will move over to item 7.1. Good evening, Interim Treasurer Vanover. How are you?
I am good. How are you tonight?
Wonderful.
Okay, so in line with the work that's being done by the task force and the work that's coming forward, as well as the fact that we have begun collecting on the November levy, I wanted to share with the board just a high-level overview of these funds, as well as other funds that are similar to these types of funds, to provide some clarification on how these funds can and cannot be used. So first of all, you may remember the document on the right. That was part of the communications that was shared during the levy campaign, and trying to just help educate and understand that information for the staff and the community. But issue 11 included a 3.0 mil levy for general operating funds, as well as 4.7 mils of permanent improvement funds. The other thing I guess I want to also point out, since Franklin County just completed a reappraisal, as we are all abundantly aware, we are now only effectively collecting 2 mils for the operating and 3.14 mils for the permanent improvements related to that passage. So we passed a levy of 7.7 mils, and we are effectively collecting 5.14 due to that increase in value. So again, the funds that I was going to discuss tonight, general operating being the 001, permanent improvement, which were the two that were on that issue that was passed. In addition to that, we also have 3 other funds that are of similar purpose. Classroom facilities maintenance, which is your 034, the building fund, and the classroom facilities fund. And I will get into each of these individually in terms of what the funding source is, how they can be used, how they cannot be used, and those types of things. So I'm not going to jump into this right off the bat. I will bring it back around at the end of the thing for more discussion, but this is just a very high-level kind of matrix that shows all the different funds across the top, all the various types of uses along the side on the left. A lot of these correspond to 5-year forecast totals, which, keep in mind, only addresses the 001 or the general fund, the operating funds. But to try to help people understand the types of uses and things that these can be used. So again, I will get into more specific detail on each of these. The other thing I want to highlight is, if you notice on the general fund for the 001 column, there's a green check in every box. Essentially, you can use general fund dollars for anything. Historically, at Columbus City Schools, what we have done is, when we have a very specific purpose, think through the $80 million transfer for the fleet replacement program. Rather than leaving it in the general fund and spending it from the general fund, we transferred it into a fund that is dedicated for that, which is the PI fund. So while it's allowable within the general fund, we have been very purposeful in trying to put it into a fund that is dedicated to those particular purposes, so that we can make sure that that's handled properly. Okay, so first one's the easiest. This is the general operating fund. This is basic day-to-day operations. This is salaries, benefits. This is funded primarily through property tax. We also receive state funding, both through our foundation payments as well as the state share of property tax, formerly called homestead and rollback. We also get other revenues, fees, interest, payments in lieu of taxes, those types of things all funnel into the general fund. Just for those that enjoyed the statutes, I did include the governing statute for any of these in case anybody wants to look into further detail into that actual language. And again, this can be used for salaries, benefits, services, supplies, equipment, you name it, it can be used out of the general fund. The other thing I wanted to point out is on tonight's board agenda, the consent agenda, there are 4 items that are utilizing these general funds. So under administrative services, you've got 15.1 and 2. Business and operations, you've got 16.1, and strategic performance, there's a 22.1. Those are all coming out of the general fund. So then the next key item, again, this is tied back to the levy specifically, is permanent improvements. Again, funded through property taxes. Additional revenues that can go into this fund, proceeds from the sale of buildings, transfers from the general fund, as I just mentioned, as we related to the fleet replacement project, as well as the sale or the proceeds from any of the sale of bonds, of notes, certificates of indebtedness, anything like that can also flow into this fund. So, for example, Operation Fix-It
went into this PI fund. So when we sold the bonds to fund Operation Fix-It, those revenues went into this account. Within the 003 fund in the Treasurer's Office, we use a portion of the account code called the Special Cost Center. So we have the fund as a big overarching pot of money, so to speak, and then within that pot of money, we have a Special Cost Center that breaks it into buckets or categories, groupings, whatever you want to call them. And what they do is it allows for, one, for ease of reporting, as well as separation of funds to make sure that everything is where it needs to be. So for example, the new levy will have its own special cost center. So all that money will go into its own special cost center, so then when we need to report out how those funds have been spent, it'll be a very quick, easy report. Once we get LOVU in place, it will be even easier. Previously, prior to that, we had Operation Fix-It was its own special cost center. That has been fully depleted. Sale of Buildings has a special cost center. The half-mil PI levy that was passed in 2016 has its own special cost center, as well as I mentioned before, that $80 million that was transferred over into the fleet replacement plan. That has its own special cost center. So again, that helps us, from an accounting standpoint, keep those funds delineated, make sure that they're going towards the intent behind those funds. Again, eligible expenses here include purchase services. And the one thing I want to point out for this kind of stuff, purchase services means architectural services, design work, legal services as it relates to construction, construction manager services. It's not basic PD, it's not tutoring, it's purchase services specific to capital projects. Any equipment that has a useful life of 5 years or more can be purchased out of these vehicles, as we mentioned, since we have the fleet replacement in here. And then renovations and construction can also come from here. So like I said before, Operation Fix-It those funds were funneled into this account and then expended out of this account as well. The key things that these cannot be used for: salary and benefits, supplies, and equipment with a short lifespan, so anything under 5-year useful life. So think Chromebooks. I mean, if you're trying to delineate the differences, it's not always a dollar threshold. For our purposes on tracking like fixed assets, we have a dollar threshold, but for these purposes, it's based on useful life. Again, board legislation, we have one item under business and operations, 16.2 is using PI funds, and then we have 5 items under facility management, 19.1, 2, 4, 5, and 6 are all utilizing PI funds. And again, these PI funds can go towards any facilities throughout the district, and that will be relevant here in just a moment. So the Classroom Facilities Maintenance Fund is essentially a PI fund, but it is a PI fund that is dedicated to those schools that have been constructed or renovated using OFCC funding, OFCC being the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission. So anything where we have utilized those OFCC dollars, we have, one of the statutory requirements is to have at least a minimum of a $500,000 PI levy dedicated to those buildings, so that we have dedicated funds and resources to keep those buildings maintained and moving forward. So the other thing to point out, since OFCC, if you'll notice, it's called Classroom Facilities Maintenance, not Building Facilities Maintenance. OFCC will only provide construction and renovation of classrooms. So athletic facilities, auditoriums, other common areas are not included with that. So we can utilize these funds to improve classrooms and the allowable expenses within the OFCC guidelines, utilizing these funds for those schools. So again, like I said with the PI that I just discussed, that can be done for any school building in the district, including administrative buildings, anything like that. These particular funds can only be used on school buildings that have had OFCC dollars contributing towards their construction or renovation. We do have one item on the agenda tonight from under facility management, 19.3, which is for one of those school buildings that has had OFCC dollars expended, and this provides some additional maintenance for that building. That is 19.3 under facility management. The building fund is not heavily used here at Columbus, mainly because we are in an FMP project. We have utilized OFCC funds. For school districts that have not utilized OFCC, this is essentially what is used. This is a construction fund. So again, proceeds from the sale of bonds, notes, certificates of indebtedness, and I think, yeah. And then the sale of buildings can also go into this fund. Think of this as kind of another PI. It's just more focused on construction. PI allows you to get into things like IT, like technology, things that are eligible, buses and stuff like that, whereas buildings is strictly brick and mortar type stuff. So there's a lot of overlap and a lot of similarities amongst all of these accounts, or these different funding sources. It just, you get into little nuances about what's allowable. So, again, like I said, proceeds from bonds can fund this, but it can also go to PI, which is what we have done in the past. And the last one I want to mention specifically is classroom facilities. This is the fund that is utilized for projects that are using OFCC dollars. And again, this is for the construction of classrooms. That is the specific requirement within the statute for the OFCC. So again, this is typically funded with you've got state funds coming from OFCC, whatever your percentage is, and I believe ours is around 30%? 70%. I knew there was a 30 in there, it was just the wrong way. It's a 70-30 split, but, so you get their portion, and then locally you have to raise your own portion. The one thing I'll point out on this, just as a point of reference, when you have that scenario where you receive a certain portion from OFCC, and then you have to raise your local portion, given that they will only do classroom facilities, that local portion not only needs to encompass the 30% or whatever that percentage is for the portion that they're providing, but anything over and above that that you wanted to include. So otherwise, you don't have funds to do things like athletic facilities, cafeterias, libraries, those types of things. So, and again, within our accounting structure, we use that special cost center to delineate segments within the facilities master plan. Interest earnings has to be separated out. State and local shares get separated out. And we do that within the big bucket in that special cost center field that we use in the account code, just to help, again, make sure everything is segmented and grouped where it needs to be so that it's expended appropriately. So having given a little bit more context, hopefully this maybe makes a little bit more sense, provides a little extra context. You can sort of see very quickly that you can essentially use purchase services of some sort. Again, not academic, not PD, that type of stuff, but there are purchase services that are eligible for all of these funds, same with equipment that has a useful life of 5 years or more, as well as construction. But you get very specific on things like salary, benefits, supplies, and equipment that has a shorter useful life. Those types of things typically fall strictly within that operating. Now, again, these are just very specific funds that I was bringing to the board tonight because it tied directly to the levy and the funds that are going to be used and tapped into going forward. Obviously, we have a lot of other funds available, but I didn't necessarily want to overwhelm everybody with all of them in one time because, well, while I know and understand all the numbers, it's a lot to take in for a lot. So we'll probably do something similar to this in bite-sized chunks to kind of highlight the various groupings of those types of things. But this touches on the two items that were most recently passed with the levy. So with that, I would welcome any questions.
Board Member Ingalls.
How often is the OFCC percentage for our district revisited? And
it is not. It is once you tap in or once you lock it in, you're locked.
So okay.
I would like to name that if there was any way that we could.
Yeah, that would be a huge game changer if we had that kind of
start over or
Yeah.
get that rate changed, it would have a significant impact on our ability to rebuild, and it would cost less for our taxpayers.
Correct.
Follow up, but when did we lock into our rate, I guess?
I'm going to defer to Dr. Roush on that because
It was a long time ago, wasn't it?
It was a while.
It was 2002 was when the district passed its first bond issue to participate in the urban, I believe it was called the Urban Accelerated Program at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, and as you can imagine, our location on the list is significantly different now than it was.
Well, in 2002, you still had tangible personal property, and that's now
Exactly.
gone away.
There are so many changes that have occurred in the way of funding as well as just the growth and changes within the districts. We would be in a very different situation right now, yes.
Is that based on the circumstances? I'm sorry, the circumstances of our district, or do you think that's a wide issue?
It's a constitutional issue, isn't it?
It is a statutory issue.
Right.
As far as where it gets set. The way that the rules and the statutes were put together for OSFC, now OFCC, is that once you kind of say, I'm going into the program, they lock you in at that percentage at the time. So even though it shifted over time for us, especially since we're more than 20 years now than when we locked in, it's kind of locked unless you have a statutory change making that modification.
Thank you.
Board Member Cole?
Thank you. Just a very quick comment and question. Comment, thank you so very much for this presentation. I greatly appreciate that Joe and Jane Public can have the opportunity to see this and, you know, get a sense of how we're taking a larger construct of money, but actually creating separate opportunities to divvy it out. So as you said, we've got that general fund account that can have certain expenditures targeted for certain money, but we have different accounts teed up to provide those costs. So if you have your house fund for home, you maybe pay the car note a certain way, maybe you pay the mortgage through a certain account. So I appreciate that kind of fiduciary management. Quick question that came to me. Does OFCC not just count construction, but do renovations at all fall into that piece?
The School Facilities Commission has a set of rules, and whether you do a full replacement or do a renovation, I think it's if memory fails me, I apologize, but I believe it's the two-thirds rule. I think that if the cost of renovating a building is more than two-thirds, then they'll just replace it, and they'll give you the cost of replacement. That's how they look at that. At least that's how it was when, a number of years ago when I was there. I don't believe that has changed. Alex is telling me
Alex is
no. I
shaking
phoned a
his head
friend.
no, so we're
He's
gonna
shaking his
go
head, no, that has not changed. It is still the two-thirds rule.
Thank you so much.
Board Member Adair?
Thank you, Treasurer Vanover. This is the type of conversation that we definitely want to continue to have, as Board Member Cole said. Part of the charge of the Equitable and Transparent Committee, which Board Member Cole and Board Member Simmons are a part of, is having these conversations. It's so critical that our community understands how school finance works. It's very complicated, and once money comes in, it has a lot of earmarks. And so as we're looking at legislation and our community is asking questions about, well, you're doing the facility master plan, we're looking at buildings, we're talking about building, we're talking about buying things, talking about it in ways to understand the underlying budget and constraints of the money is really important. So thank you for bringing us this chart and helping us through the conversations that we'll need to continue to have as a board, as well as with our community.
All right, thank you, Treasurer Vanover. All right, so we will move over on to item 8.1, a notice of public hearing on reemployment of retired employees pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code, Section 3309.345. The Columbus Board of Education gives notice that Rudolph Sutton, who retired from the Columbus City Schools as a bus driver on June 2nd, 2022, is seeking employment with the Columbus City Schools as a bus driver effective May 25th, 2024. The board will hold a public hearing on May 21st, 2024 at 6 p.m. in the boardroom at 3700, I don't know if that's the right location for where it would be, but it says 3700 South High, Columbus, Ohio, on the issue of Mr. Sutton's reemployment. All right, so we will move on to item 9.1, public hearing. All right, so 9.1, public hearing on reemployment of retired employee Kimberly Randall. Pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code, Section 33.09.345, the Columbus Board of Education gives notice that Kimberly L. Randall, science teacher who retired from the Columbus City Schools, effective May 31st, 2022, is seeking employment with Columbus City Schools as a science teacher effective April 10th, 2024. There is no one here to speak in regards to the public hearing, so this hearing is now closed. All right, colleagues, we are going to move on to our consent agenda. Our consent agenda consists of items 10.1 to 26.3. Let's see here. Are there any items that a board member would like to have removed and voted on individually from the consent agenda? A board member?
Item 20.2.
20.2. All right, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any objection to removing this item for a separate consideration? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
President Vera?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so colleagues, we will then go ahead and vote on items 10.1 to 20.1 and 22.1 to 26.3 of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve those items?
Motion.
Is there a second? Please call the roll.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
President Vera?
Yes?
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, so colleagues, we will head on down back to item 20.2, and I will hand it over to Board Member Adair.
I believe we first need a motion so we can have discussion.
Oh, can I have a motion for the discussion?
Motion, so approved, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Do we need a roll call?
No.
No, okay, that's what I thought.
Discussion.
All right, Board Member Adair.
Thank you. I wanted to talk about, have a discussion about item 20.2, which is the resolution for delegating authority for the superintendent, as well as for our treasurer and internal auditor. And so this is a piece of legislation that we have historically done as an administrative tool for efficiency in the process of hiring. And this was an item that came before the board at the beginning of the year, and typically it's done as part of our meeting, our opening meeting of the year, and something that we traditionally do. It's also something that was recommended as a best practice through our internal auditor's office, as well as through organizations that we are a member that govern various school boards. We had a discussion about this resolution, and it was tabled and then put forth. It wasn't tabled. It was tabled, and then we added it for delegation until April, and now it's up for us to reconsider. And so in the reconsidering, there has been a clause that's added to it. It is the last "be it further resolved" clause that's right before the end that limits or carves out non-school administrators classified as deputy superintendent, senior chief, chief officer, area superintendent, and senior executive directors. This is a new addition to this legislation, and I wanted to have discussion on this in particular. It is something that I personally do not agree with, but I think it warrants discussion among our colleagues. I would actually ask for a motion to amend this to remove this particular clause from this legislation at the appropriate time.
At this time, we're going to have discussion. Any colleagues wish to? Board Member Cole.
Thank you, Madam President. I agree with Board Member Adair. I think that this fourth clause before the closing, be it further resolved, Lord have mercy, these things don't work for you the way you want. Forgive me, it keeps moving on me. So we're going to go back to it. I got it. This thing won't embarrass me easily. That is, the delegated authority does not include non-school administrators classified as deputy superintendent, senior chief, chief officer, area superintendent, and senior executive director. I think that this is, in my mind, an overstepping into a space that is really left to our direct reports to decide based on how they want to name a job, but also classify it. And I'm not sure, with exception to deputy superintendent, I'm not sure how all of these titled jobs are classified in our human resources, number one. I'm not sure about that. That's another reason why I'm arguing that I think that this is something that is an overstepping in our role, and something that does not necessarily have to be under our consideration. Each one of these titles, however they're classified or designated, report at the will and pleasure of our direct reports, not the board. We don't evaluate these individuals. In fact, by contract and by law, we can't do that either. So with that in mind, I think that it's appropriate to A, either strike this language from the amendment, or B, table this again for further discussion so that we're clear about any other nuanced questions that we may have, whether legal, HR, or otherwise.
Thank you, Board Member Cole. Vice President Pierce?
So in terms of this discussion, I'll just keep this really short. The oversight that the board is supposed to provide around hiring does relate to our administration. The recommendations from the PK audit team related to teachers and individuals that are providing direct support and services to our students. So therefore, I do not support a motion to strike this language. I do, however, would support a motion to table it so we are all on the same page in terms of how the board can provide oversight as it relates to the hiring of individuals as well as the onboarding, because I think that is the essence as to why the superintendent is bringing this forward, that our process for boarding individuals is slowing up, individuals getting into that direct interaction and service with our students.
Thank you, Vice President Pierre. Board Member Simmons?
Thank you, Madam President. I wanted to first express my excitement. Because we as a board, we're having a policy conversation at the board table, and we're talking about what is the best way to govern the district, and that excites me. I'm happy we're having this conversation. It's a positive thing. I did want to address, like there was some talk about what we've traditionally done, and it wasn't until the pandemic that our practice shifted from delegating this authority over the summer for a month or two to delegating it for an entire calendar year. And so I think it's important we add some clarity as to, maybe what exactly does traditional mean, or how have we done it in the past. Further, I will say, these positions were added, these were, my colleagues and I expressed to the administration that we wanted to see some additional limitations. We wanted to be a little bit more robust in our oversight. And so these specific classifications were added at the recommendation of the administration. This is what they came back to us with as, here, there's these positions we can include. Would this be acceptable to you all? So I just want to make sure that it's very clear their voice was at the table in crafting this resolution, but I will speak to maybe more to the content. And when we talk about oversight, it's really important for this board. I've noticed we have a crisis of confidence in our own abilities, and it's important that this board is, has the confidence in ourselves to say we're going to put in some reasonable limitations, do some reasonable oversight, and establish some guardrails so that our, maybe central office headcount doesn't explode or increase drastically. That said, when we first talked about this resolution at the beginning of the year, my primary concern was that I didn't feel I had enough time to process the information. And now I'm hearing from one of my colleagues that they feel they didn't have the time, or there isn't a clarity about what the information is. And so I would absolutely support, maybe doing an additional extension, another 90 days, so that we can continue to have this conversation. And I'd be happy to make that motion. I think we prefer to have things written down before we start amending, but Madam President, when you're ready to entertain additional motions, I'd be happy to put one forward to do that.
Thank you, Board Member Simmons. Okay. We're going to start, Board Member Adair.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments of Board Member Simmons, and I think that, it is important that the board puts measures in around accountability. And we do that through the direct evaluation of our 3 direct reports, which is what is, under the law. My fear is that when we are talking about oversight in the way that you have defined it, we are heading into a sticky situation of evaluating individuals in this organization that the board does not have any authority to do. So I appreciate and share the concerns you have about, ensuring we have quality individuals, that we are paying an appropriate amount of money. I share those concerns. I don't think that this delegation of authority and the carve-out as written gets to the end goal or any goal that is really providing oversight. And so I think that, we need to continue to have those discussions. I just disagree that it is carving out these positions by title, as Board Member Cole mentioned, in this resolution. I 100% agree with giving the delegation of authority.
Thank you, Board Member Dare. Board Member Ingalls.
I want to call out that tabling this, and especially for 90 days, does give me a little bit of anxiety in the sense that when we are hiring, and I'm thinking specifically teachers and drivers and the people we need in the classroom and in our schools immediately, they are going through background checks that take weeks at a time. And then we're telling them, oh, wait, 2 more weeks for a board meeting. And I know that we need to get this hammered out, and I'm not expressing an opinion on that necessarily either way, but what I am expressing an opinion on is that if we do table this, I would like to see the board take action and presumably even take action at the next board meeting if we can get this hammered out by then, specifically because I do have concern about the length of time. By the time that you make an offer to someone and then you say, oh, and it's contingent upon 2 weeks, I think in a higher level position, that's somebody presumably coming from a different stance than somebody who's trying to take on the role of driver or building sub or teaching or one of these other, especially our classified positions. And we need those folks in the classroom as soon as we can get them. And those background checks are up to the state. And I think that puts our hiring team in a tough position. So I would say if there is any motion to table this, I would encourage the board to act swiftly and make sure that we revisit this as soon as possible.
Thank you, Board Member Ingers. Board Member Cole.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm in absolute agreement. In fact, I think that, again, there's opportunity. No doesn't always mean no, definitively. More often than not, and certainly in my personal experience in 11 years of being on this Board of Education, no sometimes mean not right now. No doesn't have to mean in this instance for this particular section of the legislation, no forever. What it can mean is just no right now. I have thoughts about 2 words that speak specifically to what my colleague just said, competitive advantage. We need to be in a position to competitively compete with other school districts locally to hire the talent necessary for us to dispense our duties effectively for children. So with that in mind, I'm totally open to the idea of making a motion to strike this language, not with a definite no, just not right now, having some kind of conversation from a policy standpoint moving forward about the viability of this language for possible future inclusion. But right now, for the sake of us effectively dispensing our duties, we need to make sure we pass this legislation tonight. So if my colleagues, by majority or unanimously, would agree to let's strike this particular clause out of the legislation for the moment and move forward with what we know is best practice with the rest of the language in this legislation. Does that make sense? And where are folks with that? Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Board Member Cole. Vice President Pierce.
So I want to clarify 2 points. The first one being made by Board Member Dare in terms of evaluation. When we have delegated hiring authority, it revolves and relates to hiring. We are not evaluating individuals. So I just wanted to make that very clear that this legislation focuses on hiring authority, not evaluating individuals. That is a separate process that is done by our direct reports. So then to move to the second point, as it relates to striking this and coming back to it. While I haven't been on the board 11 years, I've been on the board 5. And each time this piece of legislation has come before us, we vote on it, and that's the end of it. We have not, as a board, talked about it further than that. around the policy, around our job as a board to in fact have hiring oversight for the individuals that are coming into our district. And again, it's not around our classified staff, it is more around these upper, higher level administrative positions. So I just want to clarify all those points.
Thank you, Vice President Pierce. Board Member Simmons.
Thank you. I wanted to add, just so we're all in alignment about where we're currently at. So the current delegated authority is for every position in the district, and it's very broad, it's no limitations, and that expires at the end of today. And so I think there's been a couple different use of verbiage. So if we were to table this, yes, that would mean the administration would be left without any delegated hiring authority. If we were to amend this to remove that clause, that would mean their delegated authority would be, again, open, broad, unlimited through to the end of the year. I would also, be more than happy to vote for an amendment that's just giving us, again, another 90 days to talk about this. But I will say, the motion we adopted at the beginning of the year, it was that 90 days, and I think when you put a time limit on it, a shorter time limit, and maybe 90 days isn't right, maybe it's to August, which would be, 180 days. We can talk about the best timing, but by having a shorter timeline, or next week, for example, or next board meeting, that kind of puts an accountability guardrail in place for us to make sure that we do our due diligence and have the conversation. And what I'm hearing from my colleagues is that there's a desire to have more conversation. And I'm certainly open to that.
All right. Board Member Cole.
Before I offer a motion, I want to be clear that when I said classification, it wasn't about classified employees. It was about how HR classifies job descriptions, how job descriptions and/or titles fall within a classification. Okay, so I just wanted to be clear about that. With that in mind, I offer a motion that we strike this language, and move forward with the remaining language in the legislation, that we pass that today, Madam President.
So there's a motion to amend. There's a second.
I just want to be clear, just for purposes of the minutes. It is be it further resolved that this delegated authority does not include non-school administrators classified as deputy superintendent, all the way to the end of that semicolon. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Ombudsman, yes.
Thank you.
So there is a motion. There's a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ingles?
No.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
No.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
No.
President Vera?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Motion carries.
So now we need a motion to approve.
You now revert back to the original
to vote
motion,
on
which
it.
is
As amended.
original motion. Yes, thank you very much.
Madam President,
Board Member Cole.
motion to pass the legislation as amended.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Ingles?
No.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
No.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
No.
President Vera?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Anything else we need to? All right. At this time, we will move into our executive session. Vice President Pierce has the motion.
It is recommended that the Board of Education recess into executive session per section 121.22 G1 of the Ohio Revised Code to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
President Vera?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, so we will head into executive session. That will close our public streaming for this night's board meeting. Thank you all for being here, and thank you all for your participation. Have a good evening.